Point one off the game. All right. Okay. Can you hear this? People, can you hear it just fine? Microphone check. 1, 2. 1, 2. Microphone check. This isn't being back too bad. Just make sure everybody's pointing the mic up if they start doing this back. But they're right here. They should be good. Okay.
I'll try to do that one.
Okay.
I think Brett remembers my pep talk, but hey, Brett.
Casey and Joe.
I already told her.
Unmute Karen's mic and have her talk to them. It should be the first channel.
Test, 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 test.
All right, keep going.
Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Hey, candidates, you want to come up to the front so we can get started, please? Test. Come on, candidates, come on up to the front, please. Okay.
Pull up normal. Yeah, we'll take it.
Hello everybody, thanks for coming. My name is Ethan Bradley, I'm the president of 4th Ward Democrats. We're really excited to host you today for this candidate forum. I'm going to go over just, yeah sure, we can clap. These three of you are running for your alderman. So I'm going to introduce the board. My name is Ethan, I'm the president. This is Justin, our secretary, Blaine, our treasurer, and Chris, our vice president. The election to elect these three is on, the primary is on March 7th. 2 of them move on. The general is on April 4th. The last day to register to vote for this election is February 8th. We got more dates on here you can come look at.
Will there be early voting at the library like there was last time?
Yes, there will be no excuse needed, absentee voting beginning on February 21st. The question was on early voting. So the way the election works, there will be a primary, and then 2 people will move on from the primary to the general. you can vote to elect 2. Moving on, as a ward, we've chosen to just endorse 1 candidate to make it simple for us and for the members. And how do we endorse a candidate? So we're your open ward organization for the 4th ward, meaning anybody in the membership can vote, and a member is anybody who's been to a meeting within the last year. So here you are, you're right here, and you gotta pay your dues, which are $20. And if you have any issue paying with that at all, just come talk to one of us and we can get that taken care of. You can use the QR codes around the room to register or come talk to one of us. And the voting, so our vote to endorse one of these 3 will begin tomorrow and close on Sunday at midnight, and we will announce the candidate we choose to endorse next week. Okay, so a bit about the format. We have 3 candidates. They will give their opening statements. They will give prepared questions from our members. So we sent out a questionnaire, put it all over St. Louis to ask questions from these people. We got lots of different questions. I think around 50 questions from our members, which we've cut down to 5 and tried to cover the broad themes of all 50. So if you submitted a question, odds are your exact question might not come up today, but hopefully something from the first session of prepared questions will resemble your question. And then from those prepared questions, we'll go into question and answer, where anybody here can come up to this microphone and ask a question of the candidates. Then we'll give, the candidates will give closing statements. Our timekeeper, Chris, will have a bell that they ring when time is about to be called, which is at 1 minute 30 seconds total per question, and at 1 minute and 15. Yeah, at 1 minute 15, the bell will ring. You got 15 seconds, and then you better, close out the question. And if you go long more than once, or if you go long twice, specifically, you lose your ability to give the closing statement at the end. So we want to keep the questions timely, and we want to get as many people's questions answered as possible. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Karen Smith. She's been a ward resident for 9 years. She founded our organization, the 4th Ward Democrats, and moderated the 2019 debate forum. And that went great. So we've asked her to moderate again. And with that, Karen, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Everybody hear me okay? All right, excellent. We are going to do this in order of filing, okay? So, Mr. Vaccaro, you will be first question, and then it'll go to Bret, and then it'll go to Casey, okay? Excuse me?
We drew numbers, and this one was
Oh, okay. Or you did poll numbers? Because on here it was by filing.
Yeah, we did it by filing.
You did it by filing? Okay, so we'll stick to that. And you were first, so you win on that one. Yeah, it's tough being a lead. You have to be at the end, so we didn't want to do it always in alphabetical order, Excellent. So what we will do is, as we talked about with the timekeeper, if you go over twice, you potentially you'll forfeit your closing statement. If there's any interruptions of your candidates, you can potentially forfeit your closing statement as well. Okay, so this is just going to be civil. We would just want to make sure we get through as many questions as possible so we can leave some time open for folks to answer or to ask their own. Okay? Any questions?
No. So
I'll ask a question. You'll get 1 minute and 30 seconds. Okay? And then it'll go to Bret. And you'll get 1 minute and 30 seconds for the same question. And then it'll go to Casey. And you'll get 1 minute and 30 seconds for each. Okay? First, I'm going to read your bios, and then we'll get into the questions. All right. So first, we will start with Mr. Vaccaro, who's born and raised in St. Louis and still lives on the same block. He's been married for 38 years and has 3 grown children and 3 young adult grandchildren.
48 years.
48 years. Now you're just showing off. He's been a full-time alderman for the 23rd Ward for the past 14 years. He's active with Big Brothers and Big Sisters and has worked with the homeless for a long time with Larry Rice. As a full-time alderman, he works daily to address constituents' concerns such as trash, streets, potholes, sidewalks, etc. Bret Narayan is the current 24th Ward alderman. Additionally, he serves on the board of Forest Park Forever and the City of St. Louis Planning Commission. He's previously served on the board of Clayton Tam Community Association and the board of Young Democrats. He's got a bachelor's degree in political science from Mizzou and a law degree from SLU, where he served as president of the law school's honor fraternity Phi Delta Phi. As alderman, Bret has passed legislation creating better air quality in the city, reforming how asbestos is remediated, and updating our marijuana laws. Bret currently has legislation before the board to place more guidelines on the way that lead is remediated in our area. We now know that children in the city of St. Louis routinely have elevated lead levels in their blood. Additionally, Bret has co-sponsored legislation to create a charter commission, which, if passed by voters, would review the charter every 10 years and bring proposed changes to the voters. This could help with issues involving hiring and maintaining a robust, quality staff city employees for streets, refuge, and public safety issues. And my last one. It's here somewhere. He's a mysterious man, Mr. Otto. Thank you. Thank you so much. Casey Otto is a father, a business owner, and a progressive Democrat. St. Louis has always been his home. After being displaced by the airport expansion in 1999, he moved throughout the metro area before finding his home in Clifton Heights, St. Louis City. He's running for office because he wants to serve the city he loves and champion progressive Democrat values that will change our city for the better. His public record includes 6 years on the Orchard Farm School District Board of Education from 2010 to 2016. During that time, he worked to increase district funding through the local bonds and lobbying in Jefferson City. He also spent time working on labor unions to support winning Democrats in St. Charles County. Most recently, he's participated in social activism through Black Lives Matter protests and most recently pro-choice protests. As alderman, he believes he can successfully address many of the problems in our ward while working to create policies that benefit the city as a whole. Among things in our ward, he feels the need to address attention to trash and recycling, for pickup and disrepair of many of the roads. On the city level, his priorities include curbing crime while supporting greater police accountability and creating more adequate funding, equitable funding model for St. Louis public schools. All right. So our first question, and one reminder is the questions that I ask that have been picked among the city questions are not going to be candidate specific. So each one of you will be asked to answer the same question. However, if you have questions for the 30-minute Q&A from the folks that are in, you guys can ask candidate-specific questions. Okay? Oh, okay. Very good. So we will start. Actually, we're going to start. Thank you for the reminder with opening statements, and Mr. Vaccaro will have you go first.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm the alderman right now, the 23rd Ward, and I would encourage anyone to drive the roads in the 23rd Ward. What you'll see is our roads, for the most part, are paved. The way we do it in the 23rd Ward, the neighborhood organizations spend the ward capital. I do not. Hannah Krista, I can't stand up here in line because you can ask them. Hannah Krista, who heads up Lindenwood, that we get the groups together, they make decisions on what roads need to be paved, what money's going on the streets, what money's going in the trees. We have the least amount of money left of any ward. We have $11,000. This year, we put $200,000 in the sidewalks, which haven't started, but that includes areas that I'm going to lose. Want to make sure we get everybody taken care of. So I'm more hands-on, just like getting the house torn down across the way. I'm more hands-on. In the full-time, Okay, that's it. I'm full-time, and I appreciate your help.
Sorry, guys, opening statements go fast.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Thank you. So first off, I just wanted to thank the 4th Ward Democrats for hosting this and to thank all of you for coming out. It's awesome to see a full house regarding municipal elections. So as the moderator pointed out, I am the current 24th Ward Alderman. I've lived in St. Louis basically all of my life. Went to Mizzou, got a political science degree, got a law degree from SLU, got involved in the neighborhood association. The previous alderman, Scott Ogilvy, indicated that he didn't want to serve after his second term. He said, maybe you should think about doing this. I talked to my friends and my family about it, and all you have to say about local politics, if you don't do this, you need to shut up forever. And so that is what I did. I put my money where my mouth was. I filed for election. I think I've accomplished quite a bit that I'd like to accomplish, but there's still a whole lot more work to be done, and I'm hoping that work in. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Casey Otto. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be involved in St. Louis politics. I've been here for about 5 years, but before that I spent some time in St. Charles, and I helped do a lot of things there, but as a Democrat in St. Charles, I never really felt like I got an opportunity to affect much change. It was just a lot of supporting good candidates and making sure that we were heard. But out here in St. Louis, I'm excited to be able to dig into real policy changes and really make some choices that are going to affect us for the better and give us the opportunity to make this city the type of place that we all want to live in and we're very proud of. And as far as what I plan to do, I think the biggest thing for me right now, being the newcomer here to the group, is just getting an opportunity to meet all of you and getting you an opportunity to meet me and learn what I'm about and hopefully prove to you that I can be the right person for the job. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll start with the questions, and if possible, can you guys go ahead and quiet your phones so we don't interrupt folks? And we can hold the applause until the end, just again for expediency. Appreciate it. Okay, so Joe, this is going to be for you to start, and then Brad will go to you. Okay, you have a minute 30 to answer this. Okay, and make sure you watch out for that 15-second sign. Yeah, hold up.
I'll give a 30-second quietly, and then I'll ring once for 15 and 2 rings past that.
All right, very good. First question, do you consider yourself more of a policy or service-based alderman? Do you feel policy or service do more to better the quality of life for your constituents in the long run?
I am absolutely service. From the day that I had the car wash, the snow cone stand, I can tell you on an average day, I get around 20 plus phone calls, literally every day. I'm out there, whether or not, even in the case, and I don't know if Karen's here, like the house over here that they couldn't get down, I called and helped them get it down. I work with the building division and all the different groups helping our neighborhood. That's what I'm about. I mean, I married 28 years ago, Sue, my wife, who's in the back. She lived down the street from me. I live on my block. The only thing I care about is this neighborhood. What really has me motivated, that little section off of Arsenal that hasn't been paved on Jameson, it's in the 24th ward. I've asked, please pave that. And it's not. And everybody thinks it's my ward. And I keep saying, I can't do anything about that. I've driven the area around Dogtown and the areas throughout here. Some streets are pretty good, but I also see a lot of neglect, a lot of streets that are going to need a lot of work. This area is going to need a lot of TLC. Since you don't have Karen, you'll have me. I guarantee you, I work hard. And I do this full time. I have no other job. And this is what I do. My cell phone number, 314-718-0131. I put it everywhere. That's the same one my kids call. That's the only number I have.
Thank you for that question. I think really as an alderman, you got to be able to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. And so we need to focus on policy while we're getting service done. If I had $1 for every time I ended up with, I call it dumpster juice on my jeans, I'd be able to buy a whole lot more jeans. But at the end of the day, one of the things that Alderman Vaccaro pointed out, I agree 100% with. The roads around the area are in disrepair. And so we've allocated money to those roads. The streets department has been unable to fix them at this point because of labor shortages. So we need to focus on policies that are able to get and maintain a more robust worker base in the city of St. Louis. Because what I definitely don't want when we get to ward reduction and we have 14 wards is to have 14 dumpster czars who are looking over 26,000 dumpsters apiece, rather than putting together policies that enable the city to take care of its basic infrastructure. And that's what we need to be focusing on. Of course, you need to be hands-on to understand where the problems are, but ultimately, what's going to get us out of some of these situations that we find ourselves in isn't the same thing that we've been doing for the last 15 years plus. It's looking at new policy, looking at other similarly situated cities and borrowing what works. Thank you.
I do believe that you can have both. Serving your community is the number one priority for myself, and that's going to be the best way I get to get out and meet people and prove to you that I can do the job. But I think much of the things that we're dealing with in our ward can be fixed on a citywide level with policies that are going to free up the resources that are being used elsewhere because they're needed elsewhere that could be used here in our ward. I think that's the biggest issue as far as providing the services that we need is making sure we have the staff here in the city, the people that want to live in the city so they can work in the city, and also making sure that our police are being used too much in one part of the city that they can't make it back to our ward, and different things like that. But right now, in the coming months, and as I get into office, it will be about the work for me. It'll be about the service. I hate to say I'm looking forward to helping you dig through your dumpsters, but I get it. Those are the things that we need to be doing, and that's the hard work and the kind of boots on the ground stuff that I can provide as an alderman. And I do have, and one reason that I am running specifically is I'm at a point in my career where I have the free time to provide the services and do the things that I need to do in the city, and I'm excited to dedicate some of that time back to the city that I love. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Brett, you'll be the first on this question. Under what circumstances would you consider supporting a TIF or tax abatement in the 4th Ward?
So this has been a pretty contentious thing over the last few decades now. And I think what we need to be looking at is whether or not any specific incentive makes sense. If there's a test called the but-for test, and anyone who wants to talk legalese with me after this when I'm not on a timer, I'm happy to. But you shouldn't be giving incentives if the project would be happening without the incentive. And what we see in a lot of places is that these incentives are just being handed out. We're seeing developers say that they're going to do a job and then circle back around later and say, oh, hey, can you also incentivize that? And so I think we need to look at the holistic picture and say, is this incentive actually going to expand our tax base? And if not, why are we doing it? Are we going to be getting more earnings tax? Are we going to be getting more property taxes in? Because we have to remember every dollar that we hand away to a developer is a dollar that we're taking away from kids in St. Louis public schools. Thank you.
Okay. So, in 14 years, I've done 3. Every one that I did created more jobs. They were not 100%. It was 50% of the increase for 5 years. So on day 1, all 3 not only brought in more jobs, they brought in more tax revenues on day 1. One's a preschool, It's got teachers, and it was something that was needed. One was the old wagon washer, which I don't know if you know. But everyone on day one created more, not less. I'm not real big on tips and tax abatement. Now on the board, we tend to all vote for them because you have to assume that people know their neighborhoods and should know what they're needed. But I can tell you in 14 years I've done three, all three on Watson, all three businesses, all creating higher taxes and more jobs on day one. So I mean, that's kind of where it's at. I'm not real big on it. I don't feel my neighborhood really qualifies, and it's a stretch. There's a policy on who can even get tax abatement. So it has to be pretty low mod. My area really, 23rd Ward has very little low mod. So it's a stretch to do anything, and it really got to be, again, the tax increase, not decrease. It has to be increased on day one.
Yeah, as a kind of a general rule of thumb for me, I am opposed to tips. I understand, if you're working between city and county or different wards and you're trying to bring development to your ward, I will take a look at everything and make a decision on a case-by-case basis. But I think it's important that we remind business owners, especially larger businesses that come to St. Louis, that they're already getting a tax break. I don't think we're taxing corporations and businesses as much as we should and as much as we have in the past. So we need the money to build the city up so we can bring them here. They're already getting the tax breaks, and I think the best way to get businesses here is to just build the city better and do better here and get more people excited to come to St. Louis and to our ward. And also another thing I think that happens a lot, especially with older buildings. It's great to see blighted properties and dilapidated buildings go away. But I think in St. Louis right now, especially, there's a lot of unhoused people that use these buildings and use places like that as places to live short-term or long-term, and we have to be careful about displacing people and just putting up more condos or retail or things like that. So I think tips have a place possibly, but they definitely need a good hard look before we do it here in our ward or in the city in general. Thank you.
All right. I forgot to tell you, if you want me to repeat a question feel free to ask, okay? Casey will be the first on this one? Yeah. Okay. Trash and street pavement are two of the biggest issues in all of the 4th Ward. How can we better service our citizens on both of these fronts?
I hear a lot about trash. That's probably the one thing that I hear the most about. And I think the trash issue is obviously going to be a problem. We need the staff to be available to pick up our trash. But I also think at some point we have to take a look at ourselves in the ward and understand that we can't just keep hiring staff and filling dumpsters and filling landfills. There's got to be better alternatives. My dumpster's full of boxes from Amazon. I'm sure a lot of yours are. Can Amazon pick those boxes back up? Do we need to recycle everything when we can reuse it? Can we start composting as a community? I think we need to look at more creative ways to be environmentally friendly when it comes to trash, instead of just saying, hey, here's my trash, pick it up. So that's kind of the thing that I think about a lot, and I think it's a good way. I think we can strike a balance and find a way to reduce and reuse a lot more here in our communities, but also make sure our trash is picked up so it doesn't become a problem. As far as streets, that's something I haven't done a lot of research on. Obviously, I drive around every day. Sometimes I think that's the best way to keep people from speeding, slow them down a little bit. But yeah, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the streets. And as I walk the district and knock the doors, I'm excited to kind of see the state of all the neighborhoods and see what we can do to fix that. Thank you.
You're right.
I think that's difficult. So, what I would say, drive the streets in the 23rd Ward. We managed to pave Jameson. We managed to pave Fiber. We managed to pave Lansdowne. We managed to pave Hampton. We also, when it comes to dumpsters, I don't have a lot of dumpster juice on it because we drive and replace the dumpsters. We put money in, even though that we shouldn't have to, we put money in every year for dumpsters. Again, these are decisions that are made by the neighborhood organization, not by me. This year, the part of Jameson from Lindenwood through Lansdowne didn't get paid, but Jameson from the park to the highway is paid. They felt, let's get the sidewalks. They get to make decisions. If they would chose to decide to go farther out, that would have been done. I encourage you, drive the alleys in the 23rd Ward, drive the streets in the 23rd Ward, then go drive the streets in the 4th Ward like I have with my friend Greg, and I think you'll see where a lot of work is going to have to be done. There's been a lot of neglect. There's areas that are good, but there's a lot of areas that if we don't get over it, if we don't start getting dumpsters, new dumpsters in there, and if we don't get the roads paid, that detracts more from people moving in and more from property values than any policies. And well, my closing statements, I'll go through some of the policies that I have done that actually, I'm done.
Thank you for that question. That's one of the questions that I hear the most about is streets and trash. And since March of 2019, these have been issues, and it's because we have not been able to recruit and maintain the type of workforce that we need in the city of St. Louis to keep the roads paved and the dumpsters empty. It's a basic failing at the local level of government. And one of the ways that we're going to be able to fix that is to look at reforming our charter. Right now, the director of personnel is the most powerful person in the city. It's not like that in other places. They have virtually unfettered discretion to hire and set wages, and they are not accountable to the people. I can't just say, hey, I'd like to hire on more refuse workers, or I'd like to get the streets paved by contracting with people. In fact, I've brought to the mayor's office the idea of contracting on the short term, particularly for bulk trash pickup, which is one of the biggest issues, seeing the mattresses and the couches. The money has been allocated for a lot of these things. It's just the labor is not there. And we need to the way that we look at things to recruit and maintain a better labor force. That means hiring more people and paying them better.
$1 surplus. What, if anything, will you do to move those funds to paying city workers a fair salary so citizens can again have their basic services like trash and 911?
Thank you. So I guess I'll just continue from my previous point. So we need more city workers, and we need to be paying them better. It's unacceptable that people call 911 and the phone rings and doesn't get answered. No one calls 911 to just have a friendly chat. They're calling because they're terrified of something. We need to be looking at the potential of investing some of these funds, and the RAMS funds, I would also include in that, into long-term investments that will benefit numerous generations in our city moving forward. I would be very opposed to the concept of just dumping this money into any one thing when I think that we could invest it into relatively low yield investments, very safe investments, and have a nest egg for the city to make sure that as we move forward, we can continue to hire and recruit more quality people and continue to move the city into the 21st century. A lot of the ways that we do things around here, we haven't changed in a long time. And one of the most terrifying things that people say is, oh, we do it because that's the way we've always done it. And right now, I think we're at a turning point, both locally and statewide, nationally. People are looking at new ways of doing things. We have a lot of new technology. We have a lot of a generational turnover happening, basically. And we're looking at new ways of doing things. And I think that we need to address that from a policy perspective rather than just saying, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah, I'm always in support of hiring more staff for the city. I think that's going to be the best investment for our city. More people here supporting their families, raising their families, and just creating stronger bonds with the city. So as far as those funds go, I would be very happy to work with other people to pass legislation or make policies that are going to bring more staff to the city and help plug up some of these problems that we've been discussing since we've been here.
That was quick. So, if we're going to attract more people, we're going to have to pay them. The other thing we may have to look at, it's been on the ballot a couple of times, is getting rid of the residency so we can expand our hiring pool. You know, right now, our hiring pool is somewhat condensed, but the money from the Rams and the money from the COVID money, it's not sustainable money. You have to have a sustainable, you know, you gotta have businesses, you gotta have homeowners with decent work. As the population shrinks, we keep getting taxed to death. But it still has to be a sustainable amount of money. When Vince Shamo came in, he saw all the jobs that hadn't been filled and just basically cut a bunch. And then gave raises to everyone. That would be sustainable. The tax, the 3% tax on marijuana, if it passes, that could be sustainable. But the Rams money and the COVID money, it's not sustainable. It can be used for things like fixing the roads or maybe fixing the convention center. But we need to pay people more money. Having 2 kids in the police department, I agree we got to pay more. My son went from the city fire department, he's in the county fire department, because his salary doubled when he made that move. Anyway, thank you. Where's Bill next?
You.
Oh, I'm fine. See, while I'm here, I could do my Rodney Dangerfield.
All right, maybe after. But for now, we'll go on to the next question. You're good with that? Okay, excellent. All right, this is the last question from the moderator, and then we'll move on to the questions for you guys. So, how can you help your neighbors hold landowners accountable for neglected property?
Well, I can tell you again, 2 houses on Pernod, condemned, sold. 1 house, and I've worked with different NISs on different things. Annette with some, Karen with some. House on Marquette, drug dealers, they're gone. House is sold. Marquette, Hancock, gone. Working on Lansdowne, but they're basically gone. I'm going to court on February the 2nd. I go to every court, do something, and if you think Karen was a pit bull between us, we don't let it go. So I got a guy on Oletha that feels that he wants to be a good neighbor. He wants a trial. February 2nd, we're going to give him a trial, and we're all going to be there. We don't play. I am probably one of the meanest, it's my neighborhood. If you're not going to take care of your property, I'm going to knock on your door. We have the Lutheran area ministry. If I knock on your door and I find that you have issues, maybe you're elderly or you're in the hospital, we're going to cut your grass for you. If bulk isn't being picked up, I go out in my truck, although I sold the truck, but I go out, we pick up the bulk ourselves because it just got to get done. It's just easier to do it, be done with it. So, I can tell you, we hold our neighbors accountable, even down to cutting your grass. We hold our neighbors accountable. And if you don't, property values slip, and that's tax dollars. And which way does it go?
Thank you. That is another question that I hear a lot about is, problem properties. And the most frustrating thing over the last couple of years has been the COVID slowdown with the municipal courts regarding these problem properties. We're just now clearing through the backlog of some of the things that happened in early 2020. So what we've seen now is there's been drug houses in the ward and lots of open storage violations, issues like that, that we're finally now getting the municipal court judge to actually issue a fine on, or to allow the health department to come in and declare something as a health hazard so that they can come in and just clean up the mess. We've had situations with drug houses, we've had situations with hoarders, we've had situations with people who just are no longer able to take care of their properties. And I think that all of those have to be dealt with in different ways. There's not a silver bullet for all of these issues. I think we need to look at it very different when we're looking at a drug house or someone running a scrapyard than we do when there's an elderly person who's struggling to maintain their property. And the municipal courts are one of the avenues, but we also have to make sure that we have things like robust neighborhood associations so that people can get involved in the community to address those situations as they arise. Thank you.
I think for me personally, just being accessible, and that means going to meetings, being accessible to email, phone call, social media, just making sure. I think a lot of the issues, and myself included, sometimes I just want to be heard in my neighborhood. I know that these things are difficult, and I know that the people, in City Hall are working on a lot of these problems, and they're not going to get fixed overnight. But I want to make sure that if I have a problem, that I have someone to call, and I want to make sure that you guys have that person in me, and you feel like you're being listened to, and you feel like whenever you do tell me something, that that I'm following up with the correct channels to make sure that we're doing what we can to get it fixed. And throughout my campaign, again, that's going to be my biggest thing, since I'm meeting a lot of you for the first time. It's just kind of being accessible and making sure I'm there to be available when you need me.
Okay. I was like, wait, no, you're good. All right. So that's it for prepared questions. Do we have folks? We have a microphone right here, and there's an aisle that you can come up and ask questions. Anybody?
We'll stick to the same time format.
Yeah. This is.
So you know.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Help yourself.
I might be a little more.
Is there a plan in place as to, you'll have an assistant, your salary's gonna be doubled? What does it look like? You're closer to the provider. You'll have an assistant, your salary's gonna be doubled. Is there a plan in place as to how you're gonna double your population to get the same job done?
This is, yes, and this is for everybody, because in this one you can't, if this is specific for anybody, please let us know, but I assume this is for everybody? Yeah. Okay.
So I can tell you flat out, I've been on the news, aldermen are overpaid right now. $30,000, it's supposed to be $40,000 for a part-time job. These guys, I'm glad to hear the answer from my culprit over here, but they want 70 some odd $1,000 plus we get a $400 a month per diem that we can spend however we want. They want to double that, which means the salary goes up to over 80 some odd $1,000. And they want a 2-person staff. It's ridiculous. County councilmen make $20,000, have a much bigger area than an alderman. I can tell you right now, I would vote today, and I hope that there's no way that any race, I wanted to put it on the ballot. The president of the board chose not to hear my bill last week. She said, well, we already passed it through, so there's no need to hear for Carol's bill. 2 of us, Tom Oldenburg, had a bill, wanted it on a ballot. Let the people make the decision. Aldermen are overpaid right now. I would do this job for half this. If you're in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason. I am in it for one reason, and one reason only. It's my neighborhood. And I will protect it on my, I've been threatened by the drug dealers on Marquette. I don't care. I will protect this neighborhood. Period. Which one you want to go?
It goes right next.
Thank you for that question. So as Alderman Vaccaro pointed out, Alderwoman Carol Howard has a bill that she's put forward that does address the salary and the staffing issues. I've told her, and I've talked to many of my colleagues, I think that the salary laid out in the bill is frankly too high. I think that we should probably do something like attach the salary of an alderman to the median salary of a city worker, so that you're just an average city worker. That's what you're getting paid. I agree. No one that I've served with, I believe, other than a few who you guys will be able to imagine, no one's doing it for the money. No one gets into this job and works the bizarre hours and the nights and the weekends for the money. But what we don't want to do is make it inaccessible for the average person to get involved in local government. So you don't want to set something so high that it's ridiculous. We shouldn't be making more than everyone working for the city. But at the same time, you don't want to create a barrier so that you have to be independently wealthy or a retired person to be able to get involved in your community. So I'll continue to advocate for the salary to come out as the median city employee salary, and there's still a lot of debate to be done on that bill, and I look forward to it.
I do think that the salary increase is one of those things that if it's attached to, like it is now, the filing fee to run for office, that brings the fee to $700+, and I think that's very prohibitive for people. The big thing I always am a huge advocate for, and I know most people here are, they want to see people run for office. This is the time that you get to meet your alder people and actually like hear from them, and they go out in the community. And without these elections, if these people are running unopposed because it's too difficult, or it's too much of a financial burden to run for office, then these people can kind of hide behind their office and the people that have voted for them in the past and kind of get away with what they want. I do think, same thing along the lines of being a full-time position, we need to make sure that people can still have their careers here in St. Louis and do the things they're doing, run their businesses, because that's super important. We want to make sure that we allow these alder people to still be part of the community, work in the community, and do the things they need to do to support themselves, so they can stay in touch with what's going on beyond just being your alder person, because I think that does kind of have a, you approach things differently, you see things differently in that position. So, yeah, I think that's
So, Casey, the next one will be for you. If we have, if you could use the microphone so folks can hear you, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Pfister. I'm from Clifton Heights. The question's pretty specific to our neighborhood, and Bret will be familiar with it, but I'd be a way for all of you to talk about this, and that's about our parks. Clifton Park is a gem of our neighborhood. It attracts people, families. It's just a beautiful historic park. A few years ago, we had a master plan for the park developed. First part of that plan took place last year when the city put in a beautiful new playground. But this spring, when families flock to that park, there won't be a place for them to go to the bathroom. I mean, to be honest, they call them comfort stations. Now you can go to Barra Park, Sublet Park, even Slade Park, Francis Park, you name it, and they have clean, well-lit bathrooms. And this inhibits, not only our families at the playground, but all of our events. I realize, it's a process with the city, but with a bigger ward and more resources, how can you leverage, that to, not only help our park, but have a better relationship with all the parks? Thank you.
Yeah, I was putting some thought into the idea that we've essentially doubled the ward, and then we've doubled the budget, our capital funds budget. So now, with the economies of scale, does that allow us to do some bigger projects, maybe some new projects? I grew up in a community with a community pool, and I would love to see something like that in our ward. And now that we have a larger ward, it'd be a lot easier to justify that type of stuff. And as well as that, if there is more money, we have a surplus in the budget, can we add additional funds to that capital expenditures budget as as well. There's no reason that we can't continue to add to that every year, if only a little bit, and allow us to spend that down on whatever projects that we see appropriate for in the city. And obviously, you know, the parks are going to be a big thing that require city workers. So same thing as we talked about earlier. If we can get the staff, if we can get the city workers to be available, they can come and fix things and improve things and make our parks better.
Okay, well, then I would say you can look at Tillis Park, see all the work that's done with the splash pad and all the things we've done. We got $800,000 in improvements going into Lindenwood Park. It's pretty simple because of matching funds. I only got to put up 20%. I've sat on parks since the day that I was elected 14 years ago. There's the Metro Parks and the City Parks Fund. You match on the one, you don't match on the other. There's all kinds of money available to do projects. They kind of tap you out at about $120,000. You have to match the difference. So, like in Lindenwood, it took 2 years. Not only is the playground it's done already, the pickleball, and they're redoing what you want to call the comfort station. Actually, they're getting ready to take the walls down and do all the things that in the park. What I would say for the different parks, I would go for whatever grants are available, because the money's out there. You just got to have the knowledge on how to get it, and you don't use all your ward capital. You can get 75% matching funds and a complete 100% no match. So you can easily get, for $20,000 or $25,000 in your ward capital, you can get about $150,000 in improvements. And I do that every year.
And thank you for that question, Jeff. It's a great question. I think that one of the reasons that people move to and stay in the 24th Ward is our parks and our proximity to Forest Park as well. We have beautiful neighborhood parks, some of the best in the city. And one of the great and frustrating things about some of our parks are those master plans, because they were put in place and they're very tricky to deviate from once they're there. So you basically are going to fund it the way that the neighborhood came together and asked for things to be funded when they put together the master plan. Of course, you can always stray from that master plan, like we're going to have to in Clifton Park, because the comfort station needs to be updated. And the second that we saw that it needed to be updated, I was talking to Greg Hayes and Kim over at the Parks Department, and I said, let me know what it's going to cost, and we're going to make those repairs, because the parks are one of the greatest things about this region. It's one of the reasons why people live in the city, one of the reasons why people love the city, is because just the accessibility of our neighborhood parks and the gym that is Forest Park. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jay Understall. I've lived in the city almost 15 years, and I guess my biggest concern is what I see is a great increase in lawlessness in our city. On my small neighborhood block alone, the last couple of months we've had 5 car windows smashed in, people trying to break in. We've actually had 2 cars stolen. I go to my favorite restaurants in the ward. I come and I see, the wooden doors because the glass has been bashed in. Too many people are running red lights. Again, it just seems like lawlessness is on the rise, and I find it scary. So I'd like to ask you guys if you feel like I do that lawlessness is on the rise, and what you propose to do about it. What's working? What is the city doing that's working? What is the city doing that's not working, that's making it worse?
So just to address that, yeah, I mean, frankly, yes, we've seen a rise in crime over the last couple of years. I think that a huge chunk of that is due to our circuit attorney's office not bringing charges and not following through with charges. I think a lot of people understand diversion programs and rehabilitation programs, but when you have a situation like happened just 2 days ago where someone says, I'm going to shoot up the Social Security office, and then exchanges gunfire with police and it's let out of jail the next day, I mean, that's crazy, and we can't have a community that allows for that. That is not the kind of reform that anyone that I know was talking about when it came to criminal justice reform. We have to continue to push on these fronts, and unfortunately right now we have a circuit attorney who doesn't always see fit to pursue charges. I know that in the ward here we've had some folks who repeatedly have been breaking and entering and stealing cars, and the police do their job. The police catch these people, they take them to the station to process them, and the warrant officer refuses to issue warrants. And ultimately it's going to be up to the voters of the city to change their circuit attorney, and that's what's going to end this streak of lawlessness.
First off, I don't disagree with the circuit attorney, but about 8 or 9 years ago when C.M. Dotson was the chief, they took the crime and said, we'll make crime equal in each police district. Second district is that big. Other districts are that big. We all need the same amount of police. Our crime's going up and people are leaving. Whether it's your catalytic converter getting taken off the car. We need more police. I am not, and I'm definitely not a defund the police. And they said, well, that's a bad term, we'll get rid of that term. They go with, we are over-policed. We got too many police. I disagree with that. I do agree with what Bret said, that the police do arrest and do the best they can. My son's homicide, they do the best they can. And yes, we got a circuit attorney that's not doing anything, but until they redraw things and we get more police in this area, it's a problem. Because our police are far, far away. My daughter is a supervisor at 911. She works multiple 12-hour shifts. You call 911, if this building was on fire, it might take 10 minutes plus, because we didn't give them a raise. They make about and less than what an alderman makes. Even when you start talking about them, well, I'll save it to the end.
Yeah, my studio, I'm a photographer. I have a studio on Washington Avenue downtown, just a few blocks west of the City Museum. And yeah, I do see, you know, on the weekends and the evenings, it's kind of the Wild West out there sometimes. And I think the biggest thing we can do, and one of the best ways, especially for a lot of this crime, it's not, you know, it's not violent crime, it's property crime, it's speeding, it's just general lawlessness. And having a greater police presence is obviously going to deter that. But I don't subscribe to more police, so you kind of put you in a bind. But one thing that we're doing in the city, we've recently voted to expand the Civilian Oversight Board of the Police. And I feel like moves like that, so we can slowly start to kind of claw back our authority over the police. And once we get the confidence of the people and of the whole community, all of St. Louis City, behind the police, then we can really start to expand the police department and start to enact a lot of things that are going to stop a lot of, especially the crime that's in our ward. A lot of the, you know, kind of broken windows and catalytic converters and things like that. So, and another thing, in the long-term investment, always is investing in education and social programs. We need to find a way to better fund our schools in St. Louis City. You know, these crimes a lot of times are done by young people that just, you know, either feel desperate or lost or don't have, you know, a community of their own to be a part of. And we need to make sure that we're funding, you know, community and social programs as well as education. Thank you.
My name is Mr. Joe actually live really close in the neighborhood. I've been in the city actually all 52 of my years. Question is to all three. How will you improve the safety overall? Not in our neighborhoods, because St. Louis has a neighborhood here, neighborhood. If we leave our neighborhoods, how do you improve the safety overall of the city?
You guys kind of went on your own, so you can just tell us about
I think the biggest thing, and for me especially, I just feel like we need to lift up the people in the city that need it the most. If we start at the bottom and lift up those people, it's going to lift up everyone in the city. And everyone knows, I mean, you know, it's not, you know, poverty or anything that leads you to crime, but it's desperation, and it's the inability to meet your needs at your home and provide for your family. It's not having the time or the energy or the will to go out and get involved in programs that are going to uplift you. So you end up finding alternative things to do and alternative ways to, you know, to occupy your time or provide you with income. So you end up with crime, and you also end up with drugs and things like that. So to echo what I said before, I'm excited to see, hopefully, a police force that we can rein in and feel like we trust and we support, so we can build on that. And then also, again and always, I support education, and that's the long-term investment. The more money we put into education, we might not see it. I might not see it in my term or a couple terms, but down the road, that's going to pay the greatest dividends for the city, and that's going to pick up, you know, the people that need picked up the most, and that's going to help all of us. Thank you.
So, one of the things, you can get active. I'm active in Big Brothers and Big Sisters. I think I put that in there. My little brother, Michael, started with Michael at about 12 years old. Michael lived in a bad neighborhood. Things were rough. Not that I was a great mentor, but I was able to show him there is a better way. Michael now is 22 years old. He's in the Navy, which is probably one of the most wonderful kids you ever want to meet. If we get active in Big Brothers and Big Sisters, then we start with these younger kids that are in neighborhoods. Michael, if you're not one of us, if you're not part of a gang, you're one of them. And it was hard on him to resist it. I kept saying, Michael, don't let them take your life. Michael's brother, his friend, was shot and killed standing next to Michael at 14 years old. And I asked Michael, I said, Michael, that would freak me out. We should talk about it. It didn't bother him. Because he was so, it's just normal. You know? And most of these guys that are doing these crimes, if you watch the news, are 18 years and younger. We have to start with the younger kids. You know, we have to start with the younger kids. And that's up to everybody in this room. Get active in Big Brothers and Big Sisters. It's not hard. It's one day a week, one day a month. You don't have to be a great mentor. I'm not. But I did show Michael, you can do things and things can be better.
So I think this is one of the million-dollar questions in the city of St. Louis. It's how do we increase public safety and the perception of public safety, frankly. And I don't think that there's any silver bullet here. I think that it's going to have to be a holistic approach. We need to take on things like Casey was talking about. We need to be investing in education. We need to make sure that we're not engaging in short-sighted policy when it comes to development that robs SLPS of funds. We need to make sure that we're involved in the community, like Alderman Vaccaro was saying. We need to make sure that we're emboldening our community groups, our various community groups, whatever they may be, to get more involved in their communities. Because ultimately, if we increase the feeling of community that we all have in this area, it's going to be better for the entire city. When people are looking out for one another, it's hard to beat that. When you have neighbors looking out for neighbors, I'll take that any day of the week. Because I know that the folks living next to me, they got my back with stuff and I have their back with stuff. And I think we need to expand that mentality throughout the city. And that's where we're going to find the solutions, when we start actually caring about the folks that we reside next to.
Thanks for answering the question.
Absolutely.
Oh, wanted to people to dig in a little more with the issue of the abatements and the TIFs, because I was glad to see both the current alderman saying you're not looking to in this ward, or what would be the combined ward, like chase it here. But I work for the Sierra Club, so I was recently involved in the whole issue of the offer of abatements for Marina project at the very north side of the city, which I think is a poorly vetted bad project, and the majority of the board supported that. And then I'm looking at a lot of these incentives plans, especially the Central West End, and it seems like I don't quite understand all the system with SLDC, but it seems like there's a presumption of yes, and there's just abatement after abatement and TIF, and it's offered. And as a child in this school system, like that's being taken from my child and all these other children, and it's related to, there's been great questions related to dealing with crime and problems with youth in our school. I don't think there should be a presumption of yes, and like, how do you change a system that's set up? And there's a worry about just like, well, the people know their own ward, so we just accept what they think should happen, which you don't want to disrespect people what they know in the ward, but if you're taking money from the schools, it's an issue. So just want some more exploration about that topic.
Sure, happy to address that. And on the Marina project that you were discussing up north, I think that was a very problematic project for me. The St. Louis Zoo had issues with it. There's migratory birds there. That there was a serious public safety issue involving building a marina